you, Nick. Thank you, Nick. We're not supposed to be here today. They don't want you to be here. I'm going to talk about why that is. I'm going to address some of the people who don't want us to be here. They do not want an anti-war rally in this town. I want to talk to you first as a son of Washington, before I talk to you as a journalist. Someone who's known this city, who grew up in this city in the 1980s, in this imperial capital. And I watched as my city was suddenly struck by a crack epidemic, precisely at the same time that the CIA was seeking covert funding for illegal wars in Latin America. And I watched the streets of this city filled up with homeless Vietnam veterans, often still wearing their camouflage BU, at the dawn of a homeless crisis that is now completely consuming our cities and which is apparent all around us. It was only recently, just a few years ago actually, as I walked through Riverside Park by my home here in DC in Anacostia, that I noticed a small memorial to the Bonus Army, commemorating another generation of US veterans who had been abandoned and betrayed by their government. Nearly 90 years ago, thousands of veterans of World War I gathered on the Anacostia Flats and along the Potomac in Whoville's makeshift camps at the dawn of the Great Depression to bonuses they had been promised and denied by the US government. They had fought in a segregated army, but they now stood together and lived together as black men and white men. Some were supporters of communism, some were supporters of the kind of America First style conservatism that was becoming in fashion at the time. Arthur warned that pacifism and its bedfellow communism Arthur and the U.S. and massacred them with tanks, cavalry, the U.S. flag in the trenches of Europe. We stand here 9 years later, in the same city where this massacre occurred, the countless disastrous. We know that by coming here today, by coming together across artificial political boundaries and cultural lines imposed on us by our elites, we stand in the muddy boots of the Bonus Army as an imperial regime in deep decline trembles before us. And that's why it's so tragic to me that this rally is under attack, not only by the usual suspects in the corporate media, but by sectarian forces that parade as progressive and anti-war.
Yes!
They say the right and left should not come together, that our petty differences must define and divide us, and that this rally is a danger to the movement. Well, let me speak now as a journalist who's met and lived with people on the other side of the guns of US empire. Let me speak about the Palestinians I met in the rubble of Gaza who'd seen their families wiped out by US-made missiles and howitzers fired by Israel's apartheid army simply because they dared to resist their dispossession. Let me speak to you about the Syrian people I met in Damascus who'd seen their city surrounded by NATO-backed jihadist militias. The people I met in Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba, the troika of resistance, who had bravely weathered Africa, from Eritrea to Addis Ababa, who have seen 5 million people displaced by U.S. I met, who've been known people, and the people I know in the republics of Donbass and Lugansk, who have suffered for 9 years under the U.S. supplied bombs of the Ukrainian military and its neo-Nazi brigade. Our corporate media, which is just a megaphone for our oligarchic elite, is constantly telling us who our enemies are. They said our enemy was in Serbia when I was a teenager. Then they said our enemy was again. Then they said our enemy was. And we corporate media and the only media you speak for. Our enemy is the enemy of real journalists like Julian Assange. We need to fight them over there, so we have to fight them here. We say that we will fight the neoconservatives over here before they kill millions more. They can dig it.
You know, I'm basically trying that Proud Boy trial. I'm representing one of the Proud Boys.
Yeah! Thanks, Max. Max Blumenthal! All right, everybody. Next, we have an incredible journalist, Pulitzer Prize-winning former New York Times journalist, and a great hero of mine, Hedges.
Become God. They demand the sacrifice of others in the mad quest for wealth, fame, and power. But the idol always ends by requiring self-sacrifice, leaving us to perish on the blood-soaked altars we erected for others. For empires are not murdered. They commit suicide at the feet of the idols. These pimps of war do not see the corpses of their victims. I did, including children. Every lifeless body I stood over as a reporter in Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Palestine, Iraq, Sudan, Yemen, Bosnia, and Kosovo, month after month, year after year, exposed their moral bankruptcy, intellectual dishonesty, sick bloodlust, and delusional fantasies. They are the puppets of the Pentagon, a state within a state, and the weapons manufacturers who lavishly fund their think tanks, Project for the New American Century, Foreign Policy Initiative, American Enterprise Institute, Center for a New American Security, Institute for the Study of War, Atlantic Council, and Brookings Institute. Like some mutant strain of an antibiotic-resistant bacteria, they cannot be vanquished. It does not matter how wrong they are, how absurd their theories of global dominance, or how many times they lie.